For someone shopping for homeowners insurance in Woodstock, Georgia, what should they focus on first?
In Woodstock, Georgia, the first thing you need to focus on when getting new home insurance is making sure you don't have too much coverage, just the right amount.
Why?
So
Why
you don't
would too
want to
much
be,
coverage be a bad thing?
because market value in Woodstock versus the actual replacement cost of your home, you want to make sure you're not being gouged. You don't want to be paying too much for something that's not realistic, and you don't want to have not enough coverage to match what you actually need in time of a claim.
So, can you explain what that means? So, give me an example so I understand.
So, for example, right, whenever you're building in different cities, right, let's say, for example, 5 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, you bought your home for $100,000, right? Building materials change over time. It may cost to rebuild your home now $250, right? But because the area is blowing up, the market value of your home might jump up to $600,000. But you bought it 10 years ago for $100,000. Market value, which you could sell it for, skyrocketed. The building materials didn't. So if you're looking for a new home insurance policy and someone's recommending you cover your home for $700,000 just to match your market value, they're going to charge you thousands and thousands of dollars. That's not realistic. To actually rebuild your home, it's going to cost $300,000. So you should only pay for that much coverage.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what does replacement costs really mean in Woodstock, Georgia, and why does it matter for Woodstock residents?
So in Woodstock, on your home insurance, it's very important to have replacement costs because it's the full value of your home. Your home is your most important thing. It's your baby. It's your biggest asset people usually own. You don't want to play games with it and have coverage. It's always the main thing of not having enough coverage and being screwed over by that. Full replacement cost means you're going to get the full value of whatever is on your property throughout any kind of claim.
So, because this is Georgia, I know there's a lot of older homes. Do y'all have any special kind of insurance for certain homes that are of certain age?
So in Woodstock with the Larson Group, we cover any home that is 89 years old or younger, right? So we do already insure full replacement costs for homes 89 years or younger. We do older homes as well, but we also offer a functional replacement cost option. So if you have a home built in 1901 and it's super fancy and it's built a very specific way that you really like, we can add a coverage on there to either A, rebuild it if anything were to happen with today's materials, or you have an option to keep it the way it is now, and we can find specific materials to match the vibe that you have now, if that makes sense.
So, is that a special endorsement? Mm-hmm. What kind of endorsement is that?
It's called functional replacement cost.
Okay.
So we can either add that or we can keep it off. That's up to the customer, but it's super cool because if you like the way your home looks from 1901, you can keep it that way, or we can make it functional with today's requirements and code.
Right, because a lot of stuff back then was like real hand wood. Like we don't even like mass produce those materials,
No.
right? So I think in Galveston, because there's a lot of it's like historic homes is what they call them.
That's what that coverage is for.
Yeah, that coverage is for
It
that.
used to be called, I think it used to be called historic home coverage.
I wonder why they quit calling it historic home for that. Just sounds better.
Yeah, functional replacement. Functional is going to sound a little better, especially in the Marietta area. They have a lot of historic homes. That's where you see that coverage come into
Some people
play.
also get offended by calling their home historic.
Yeah, unless they're in Marietta and they like the fact that it is a historic home.
Yeah.
But if they're
But it's like there's probably 25-30% of people that get offended by you calling their house old.
Yeah, so 50-50, but there is coverage for whatever you need.
Okay. Can you explain the main parts of a homeowner's policy in plain terms without oversimplifying it?
Without oversimplifying it. So home insurance in Woodstock, the biggest thing you're going to have is your dwelling coverage, how much coverage you need to replace your home. You can have personal property coverage to replace your stuff inside the home. If anything were to happen, replacing your clothes, your socks, your shoes, your forks, your knives. Anything not attached to the house, you have coverage for other structures. In case, let's say someone gets hurt in your property and they want to come after you, you have guest medical coverage to cover their boo-boos. And if they are really upset about it and want to sue you, you also have liability coverage built in as well. So there's a bunch of different coverages, even if the home gets burnt down, and it's down to the ground, it's going to take a year to rebuild it. With the Larson Group, you're going to have additional living expenses. So your loss of use would be covered. If you can't live in the home, we'll pay for your Airbnb, your hotel, your food, your water. So there's a bunch of different pieces that builds up home insurance.
How should someone choose the right deductible in Woodstock, Georgia?
The right deductible is going to be based off of what you can actually afford. You don't want to, higher deductible, lower the price, low deductible, higher the price, right? But you don't want to have the lowest deductible and fork up thousands of dollars a year for no reason, because it's not realistic. You also don't want the highest deductible because you can't afford it if anything were to happen. You might be paying $2 a month in your home insurance. Beautiful, lovely for you. But if you were to file a claim and your deductible is $20,000, You can't afford that, and insurance won't cover anything that you can't afford. So you need to make sure that number one, your deductible matches what you can afford, but it's also realistic for filing a claim.
Makes sense. So I mean, if you're trying to like, people are good with their money and they can save right, then it makes sense to have a lower monthly. But if it's a $10,000 deductible, then they're kind of
Unless you're absolutely rich, a $10,000 deductible wouldn't make sense for most people in the Woodstock area. Average deductible you're going to see is between $2,500 and $5,000. You're not paying super low premiums. You're not paying super high premiums. And most of the time in this area, that's something that you can either finance or people have saved. So
Okay.
it's something that they can fork up without being put behind.
How much personal liability coverage is enough for a typical household in Woodstock, Georgia?
In Woodstock, typical household range between $300,000 to $500,000. Some people even go up to $1 million. There's a lot going on in Woodstock. We have our events, our events. We have our parties. There's a lot of moving parts, and it is a nicer area. So liability is going to cover anything that you are open to. So if you're to get sued, you need to make sure you have enough coverage to cover the most important thing, which is your home and your assets.
What are the most common mistakes with homeowners insurance in Woodstock, Georgia that you see when people switch carriers?
They're too focused on price. In Woodstock, it's very important, number one, to save your money, but it's also very important to cover your stuff correctly. So they sacrifice their coverages just to save $1 or $2 when it doesn't make sense. So they're cutting corners just to save $1 when it's going to hurt them in the long run and cost them thousands.
What about as far as like, I think you gave me an example earlier where somebody was overpaying, right? So like, I guess there's another aspect of just having the right agent.
Yeah, you need to find the right agent. So the Larson Group are very, very good at making sure we go through in depth with you about what you actually need. It's a very big thing on giving you not enough coverage. We would never do that. But we also don't want to give you too much to where you are paying more than you actually need. If your home is worth, if the replacement cost for your home is $300,000, but someone's trying to tell you to insure it for $1 million, that's not realistic. You're being overcharged. But if your home is worth $700,000 and someone's telling you to insure it for $300,000, you know for a fact that's too low. So it's all about finding the right agent to explain to you what you actually need, how you can use it, and still being realistic premium-wise.
How should a homeowner document belongings so a claim goes smoothly?
So personally, or within our agency, in Woodstock, it's a very nice area. People have a lot of things. You live here. Once you come here, you stay here for a long time. So over the years, you're going to accumulate a bunch of things in your house: family, memorabilia, pictures, family items, personal items. So once a year, we always recommend our customers to take a walk through their house, take a mental inventory. Number one, number two, take a video, take some photos, open some drawers, open some cabinets, get a general idea of what you have. If you think, in this cabinet, I just have a couple plates, but when it actually happens, you figure out that you actually lost very expensive china. You're not going to find that out until after the fact, but you have nothing to really base that off of or to quote unquote prove that you have it. Right. So take photos of every room once a year. Take a video once a year. It's a 3-minute video just walking around your house. You can do different stories, different levels, but as long as you keep a general idea of what you have in every room, you will know exactly what to say if anything were to happen.
What should a homeowner in Woodstock, Georgia do immediately after a loss to protect coverage and reduce claim severity?
So the first thing you need to do is, number one, make sure that you guys are okay. Number two, call us. Let us know what's going on. The sooner we get out there to handle things, as soon as something happens, the sooner we can stop further damage. If you have a roof leak and you know about it and you don't let us know and nothing's there to stop it, it's going to keep going and going for days and days and days, and it go from hundreds of dollars worth of your loss, damage to your stuff, to thousands. So first thing, make sure that you guys are all A-okay. Second one is to let us know what's going on so we can send our team out there to make sure that you guys are everything's in order. We can start working on the claim. And then 3, depending on what it is, just document what you can personally. Take photos, if it's if something got stolen, like look through anything like the once a year video walkthrough. You have proof that you had it, you can show us like where it was, how it happened, if it's a fire, documenting what was lost in there. The only things you can do, step one would be to let us know, so that way we can start taking care of you guys for you.
How do you approach Woodstock, Georgia insurance quotes without sacrificing coverage quality?
Well, the biggest conversation when it comes to starting a quote for people who live in Woodstock would be coverage. So everything that we do is not based off of price, right? Price comes second, coverage comes first. Price follows. So we're going to make sure that you have the correct amount of coverage up front, not too much, not too little, just right for you and what you need specifically. Have the conversation that some people won't have with you. Like, realistically, do you think you need this? Yes or no? You have this and this. Do you really think you're ever going to use that? We don't want you paying for things you aren't going to use. So the price will follow the conversation, but coverage is always number one, because one bad day can ruin your entire life.
Is it worth bundling home and auto in Woodstock?
In Woodstock, it's definitely worth it, especially with the Larson Group. Keeping everything under one roof, number one, makes it really easy to keep track of everything. Keep track of your agents. If you have everything split up, you have to call 3 different companies for one single thing. We're in charge of all your documentation and your policies. We can keep track of everything really, really easy. And we can communicate with you through one company if anything were to happen. Specifically, too, you also get the discount for bundling. Have everything under one roof is a big benefit. But number 2, saving money is also the second biggest one. You get discounts for doing it. You get loyalty discounts for having everything together. And then personally, my biggest thing is having it under one roof, having one company to call, making sure that it's obviously with a reputable company, but also being able to manage everything at the same time.
How do renovations affect homeowners insurance in Woodstock?
Renovations are huge. So if anybody ever does do a renovation, it's very important that they let us know. Specifically, if they're adding, let's say they add square feet to their home, you have a carport and you enclose it into a room. You're going to use your garage as living space now. You get rid of the doors, you close off the wall. You add a deck. Not only do you increase the value of your home, you also increase the cost of how much it's going to take to replace it. If you add a deck that you didn't before, we don't have that labor included in what you're currently covered for. So when the time comes to happen, it's like, oh, you don't have enough coverage. Anything you do to increase the value of your home might also increase the value of the building materials. So it's very important that you let your insurance company know, or us, so we can make sure that you have the correct amount of coverage still.
What should people know about coverage for detached structures and outdoor property in Woodstock, Georgia?
It's very important to obviously cover the stuff on your property, number one, right? Most people, when they, you buy a home, you buy a shed. You buy a home, you build a pool. If you don't have that stuff covered, you're spending all this time building things or buying things that you're not going to get paid for if anything happens, right? You build a shed to keep your lawnmower in, right? And then suddenly now it's yours or your husband's workshop, and he's out there hanging out. Now it's a big thing. Now there's 2 cars in there. Now there's a whole garage, but you never told your insurance company. Storm comes through, you lose your whole garage that you spent years building and living in. You have the pool. Not only is there coverage and money possibly being lost, but there's also liability risk to having something else on your property that we don't know about.
How often should Woodstock homeowners review their policy, and what triggers an immediate review?
So we always recommend reviewing your policy once a year. When you're doing your yearly view on bills, cutting costs where you can, making sure that you have enough coverage for certain things. That's always recommended. Use the beginning of the year, every single year, to look over your stuff. Number 2.
Should it be the beginning of the year, or should it be well, I guess it depends on if it's escrowed, right?
Well, if you have a mortgage on your home, right, whenever that review's happening, right, it's usually about the time that you buy the house. You buy it in February. Every February they're going to do an analysis, right? You buy it in December, it'd be December. January is usually a good start. New year, new tax year, if that makes sense, to keep track of everything. So if you were going through your taxes and you see how much you spent where, and you look at your home insurance or your car insurance or your renter's insurance, and you're looking to save money, like, oh, I made this much, but I have nothing to show for it. Let me see where I can what's going on. You can pull specific things at the beginning of the year and look everything over. So like home insurance costs rising, stuff like that, making sure your coverage is adequate to whatever happens. Again, even making sure you have the right amount of liability. So at the beginning of the year, you're going to find out what you made last year. Right. If you made a lot of money last year, you might have more assets now. You might have bought a new car. You might have bought a second home. Could be renting out a property now. Even an increase in your income, more liability comes with that, because now you have more to lose. So even though things are escrow for your home, the beginning of the year would be the better time to look everything over. But it doesn't hurt to do it more than once a year. And obviously, if you're ever going to file a claim, more than likely you're going to pull your policy out anyway. But if you do that at the beginning of the year, you know what to expect. It's fresh on your mind.
If someone wants to shop coverage with the Larson Group, what information should they have ready, and why should they contact the Larson Group for their home insurance?
So shopping with the Larson Group, specifically, number one, why is because we're going to tell you things that the companies won't. We're going to tell you that you don't need something. We're going to be upfront with you. We're not going to hold things back. We're not here to scare you. We're not here to be your best friend, right? We want to be friendly to you and make sure that everything's, we can be besties at the end of the day. But number one, we can't be besties if I underinsure your home. We can't be besties if if you need something on the policy and I don't give it to you, or you need something and you don't have it on your current policy. Shopping with us, we're going to make sure you have what you need, have everything you need and nothing you don't, right? But we're also going to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of with your current one. If you haven't shopped your insurance in 10 years, you could have a million things on there that you need, but you also have 2 million things that you don't. And now you're also paying all this extra money for all this stuff that is not accurate anymore, So, it's always important to have your policy with you when you shop insurance. I can tell you a million things, ask you if you have this or ask you if you need it.
But you need to have it ready.
But you don't know because you don't have your current policy with you. Knowing what you're paying is one thing, but knowing what you're paying for is a separate one. So having having your policy with you and knowing what you're paying is the two of the biggest things next to, knowing your first and last name, right? But also understanding and being able to, I guess, communicate what you think you need and what you don't need is also very important.
Makes sense. Yeah, 'cause if the person who handles all that isn't the person on the phone, like my wife handles like all the medical stuff, so
Yeah.
if she tries to call in about the home, she's not gonna know anything, right?
Unless she has the policy with her,
Right.
then, and then she could relay that to you. If I tell you certain things, you want to write down a little note here and there, like, oh, make sure you ask him about this,
Right.
like you didn't know about this, make sure you do this. We can give you advice, we can give you direction, At the end of the day, we're here to help you, and then once we help you and you understand exactly what you're getting, now it's time for us to be best friends. We can hang out for the years to come,
Right.
but we're going to make sure you're taken care of first.